the video I was talking about. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to solve for x when it comes to inequalities. Now, whenever you're solving for x, this is literally the basics of it. Okay, so you're going to have some sort of expression, which is this is my expression, this is an equation. And we're going to have letters and numbers. And what we need to do, we need to isolate. And that means that we need to leave alone the letter. So in this case, for this specific problem that you see right now, I would have to leave the letter N, if this works, alone, right? That's the whole purpose of this. Now, in order to do this, it's not as easy as you may think. There's going to be a couple of skills that you need to know, and they're just fundamental math skills. First of all, you need to understand pandas, because usually we're going to be working backwards. So pandas, right? So you already know what that is. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Now, usually whenever we're working with inequalities and whenever we work with in general solving for x, we go from the lowest rank all the way to the top rank, okay, usually. Does it always work this way? Not necessarily. Sometimes you can divide first, sometimes you can multiply first, but this is what we're going to do, okay? We're going to go ahead and we're going to try and follow those rules, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. There's also a couple other things that you need to know, and this is just things that we've been doing it since the beginning of the year. One of them is going to be distribute. What does that mean? And I'm going to show a little drawing right here on the side. Distribute means that you're going to have a number, or let me use letters. Okay, so this is a number, okay, even though I'm going to use letters. You're going to have something, a number outside, and then you're going to have two things on the inside. So it's going to be B plus C on the inside, okay? Now, what you need to do when it comes to this type of problems is that you're going to grab that one on the outside, this guy right here, and it's going to multiply there and also there. That's distribute. That's where a lot of people are getting stuck. They don't know what to do. Whenever you have parentheses, you just have to multiply whatever outside to whatever's inside. Literally, that's so simple. Another thing that you need to do is called combining like terms, okay? I don't know what to say. I mean, we went over this, and I remember we went over this a lot. Combine like terms. That's going to be another big thing that we're going to have to know how to do. That means if, let's say, we have 2x plus 3x plus 5, which two are my like terms? Obviously, the ones that have an x, right? Because both of them have an x. Is 5 a like term? No, it's not, because it doesn't have an x. I don't know how to make it easier. Literally, you just kind of have to look at what you have and see, okay, what looks similar? I can tell that this two looks similar. That's why I'm going to combine them. This is the way I learned it. And this is the way I'm just telling you guys just to kind of figure it out. Look for something that has the same stuff, okay? So in this case, it's going to be a letter, okay? So you're going to have some random letter, and you can combine those. If they don't have the letter, or we have a number and a letter, then you cannot combine this, okay? So just keep that in mind. Those are like terms. What else do we need? We need to understand how to move one thing from one side of the equation line to the other, right? And this is what I'm going to go over this, and I'm going to go over it with the problem. Not this one. This one's really basic. But once we get to one of those problems, I'm actually going to go ahead and explain what that means. Okay, let's go ahead and start working this problem out. Because I don't want this video to be like 20 minutes long and be like, okay, mister, I'm not going to watch that. So let's go ahead and look at this. Okay, so we have this problem right here. It's going to say 3 is less than negative 5n plus 2n. So what are we going to do? This guy right here, right? We're going to combine like terms. Now, what do you think? Why do you think I'm saying we need to combine like terms? I am saying that because we have these two guys right here that both of them have an N. All right, they have the same letter, so I know that I can combine them. So let's start with that. So if I combine this two, negative 5 plus 2 is going to be negative 3n. Now, here's where people also start getting confused. Well, what did I do with this? Nothing. So I'm just going to bring it up. So it's going to be 3 is less than negative 3n. Okay. Pretty easy. Now, whenever you're solving for x, we said we're going to do pandas, right? So we did subtraction and we did subtraction or addition in this case. Sorry. Now what we're going to do is now we need to divide. Okay. And I should have cut it out, but I'm going to go over it after I go over this problem. Now we have this. Okay. We're going to have to divide both sides because I'm trying to get rid of this 3 right here. All right. So I'm going to be dividing by -3 on both sides. And the reason why we're doing that is because if you have something on top of the fraction line and on the bottom of the fraction line in the same fraction, they become 1. Okay. So that becomes 1. So basically we have 1n, but you don't have to write the 1. We can just imply it's already here, so we just write n. Now, big thing whenever it comes to inequalities is that if you divide by a negative, which guess what that is, we need to change the sign. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change the sign here. So it's going to be looking the other way. And now we go ahead and we write -1. And we're done. So that's my answer. Now, this one says -1 is greater than n, but usually we don't write it this way. We tend to put the letter first. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to write the letter. But if I do this, and I saw a lot of people doing this wrong because they forget to do this. Okay, so 1, and don't forget you got to flip it again. Oh, I did it wrong this time. You see, I did it wrong. I didn't flip it, so now it gives me a completely different answer. That's not my answer, so it's going to be n has to be less than 1. Okay? So this is my actual answer. Now, let's go over a couple of things I want to go more about. Okay, so we just have random stuff. We already talked about combining like terms. We talked about distributing. Not a big thing, and I notice a lot of people are having trouble doing this. So let me do something. Let me see if I can add a picture here. Can I add a random page because I need to write stuff on this? On here. Sorry. My voice is kind of dying today, but okay, here we go. All right, so whenever it comes to solving for equations and stuff like this is also very important. What do you usually want to do first? And I should have gone that to begin with. So whenever we're trying to solve for x, you always trying to isolate. And right now I'm just going to use an equal sign just to not get you guys confused. We'll go ahead and go back to inequalities in a bit. But whenever it comes to solving for x, one thing that you really have to do is just leave the variable, the letter alone. And you always have to start with anything that's not touching that letter. That's the way I learned it. So what is not touching this letter? Obviously is going to be 3. Now, how do I know, like we talked about this pandas, I know addition and subtraction is first. So usually I know that anything that has a plus or a minus, and I can see it, that's the first thing I want to move. Okay, so in this case, I would want to move the 3. So how do we do that? Okay, now the whole point is that you have to balance out the equation. All right, what this is referring to is that whatever you do to one side, you also have to do it to the other. So I want to get rid of the 3, okay, on this side. I want to get rid of the 3 on this side. So what that means is that I have to I have to subtract something to that 3 in order to make it disappear completely. And whenever we're talking about math and making something disappear, we were talking about making it 0. So what number can make 3 0? Is going to be what? A 3. Right? It's going to be a -3. That's what's going to make that into a 0. So I'm going to have a 0 now. Okay, so that cancels out. But like we said, we have to balance out the equation, meaning if I do something to one side of the equation, I have to go ahead and do it to the other. So on the other side, we're also going to have to subtract by 3. Now over here, we didn't do anything with the 2x, so all it does is just going to go ahead and bring it down. All right, now we have 2x on the bottom. And over here, we have to figure out what this is going to give me. Okay, so 10 minus 3, it's 7. Okay, now finally, you have a number right next to a letter. Okay, I don't know whenever you guys took Algebra 1, but we always trying to do the opposite of whatever's happening whenever we're trying to solve for x. So right here, I don't know if you knew this, but every time that you have a number right next to a letter or right next to a parentheses, there is an invisible multiplication. So basically, can be written as 2 times x, all right, equals 7. Now, this is the reason why we divide whenever it comes to this. What is the opposite of multiplication? Division. So I'm going to divide that one by 2, and I'm going to divide this one by 2 also. So what is that going to give me? This 2, they don't cancel out. This is one thing that I want to make sure you guys understand. They become 1. So now we have 1x, which is the same as x, right? We don't have to write that 1 in the front. Now 1x is going to equal to 7 over 2. Now, can I simplify the fraction? No, I can write it as a decimal, but can I simplify it? No, I cannot. So that would be my answer for this, okay? That is how you solve for x, but I'm not going to stop right there because I want to make sure I show you guys a lot of different steps. Now, maybe on the next video, I'll go more over the inequalities, but I really just want to make sure you guys understand how to solve for x. Something that should be pretty easy for you guys. So you guys have been doing this for like, I don't know how many years. And obviously, we as teachers, I think we kind of failed you guys a little bit because a lot of people don't know how to do it. And I saw it this week, and I've seen it multiple times, and I actually want to go over this. Okay, so let's solve for x again. So again, we're going to have 2x plus 5 equals 5x minus 9. Okay, now we have more stuff. We have an x on both sides of the equation or the expression here. So what are we going to do? Same thing. So we're going to have to balance. We're going to have to balance out the equation, meaning that we're going to have to solve for a letter, which in this case, we know what letter that is. It is 2. Now, you can do this in multiple ways, okay? Because whenever you're doing and you solve for x, you can do different. You can move things from one side to the other just whenever you want to. And this is what I'm going to show you right now. This skill is something that you guys should be able to do just in your sleep. All right, so if I want to move something from this side to this side, all I have to do is look at the number that I want to move, or the letter, whatever it is, and I have to do the opposite on both sides. What that's going to do is going to move one thing from one side to the other, and I'm going to show you. All right, so let's go. I want to move this 5x. I want to move it over, right? Now, what is this 5x? Okay, I'm not doing multiplication and I'm doing division. This 5x is a positive 5x. Now, like I said, it's a positive 5x. So in order for me to be able to move to the other side, I have to do the opposite. So what is the opposite of positive 5x? Negative 5x. Okay, what this is going to do is going to completely, now, this is true. This is going to completely cancel out because this is equals to 0 now. Okay. Now the other side gets the negative 5x. Okay, you see what I did there? I didn't do any multiplication. I didn't do any divisions. All I did is I moved something from one side to the other. Okay. Now let's say I didn't want to do that. Let's say I want to leave the 5 where it is. All right. Well, you can. Now I want to move this guy, the 2x. I want to move it to the other side of the equation, which is not hard. What is the 2x? It's a positive 2x. So in order for me to move from one side to the other, all I have to do is subtract by 2x. Now this one's also going to be subtracting by 2x. Those two cancel out and become 0. Now over here, this becomes 3x. All right, not too shabby, right? So what am I trying to make sure you guys understand out of here is that whenever you're trying to move something from one side of the equation to the other, you have to add or subtract. That is the only way that you can move these things. Okay, but remember, what you do to one side, you got to go ahead and do to the other. And in order to move it, you need to do the opposite. Okay, there's a lot of tiny little rules that we're doing, but it's just going to have to be one of those things that you're just going to have to remember or drill link it. You know, you're just going to have to do it multiple times in order for you to be like, okay, I finally get it. And that's how most of the teachers learned this. Most of the math teachers learned it that way. We did a whole bunch of different problems every single day until we actually got it. You can ask any teacher, they did so much homework until it was ingrained in their head. Okay. Nowadays we don't do it. We try to do different things, which in reality I don't think is working out, because a lot of the kids are getting stuck in this basic fundamental skill for math. Okay. All right, so now let's finally solve this one. Okay, so again, let's go ahead. I'm going to move a different number. I'm going to move the 9. Now, like we mentioned before, how do we move it? We need to do the opposite. What is the opposite of negative 9? Well, plus 9. That cancels out. That becomes 0. And we bring down the 5x. So the 5x is coming down. Now, don't forget, the 9 is going to go right here, right below to something that's like terms, right? Because those two are like terms. That's why I put it below the 5 and not the 2x. I didn't mention that, but I'm going to start mentioning it now. So now those two, I'm going to combine them. That's going to give me a negative 4. And now I bring the 2x. What should I do now? Well, I want to leave the x alone, right? But I have two x's here. I can move the 5 over here, or I can move the 2 over here. Now, you're just going to have to figure out which would be the easiest. Now, I'm pretty sure that moving the 2 would be the easiest. So I'm going to go ahead and move the 2 this way. So how do we do that? Like I said, the only way to move from one thing to the only way that you can move from one side to the other is by doing the opposite and basically adding subtract. So I'm going to be subtracting by 2x. I'm going to subtract this guy by 2x. Now those two cancel out, so they become 0. The 4 comes down, so that's 4 equals, now 5x minus 2x is 3x. And we're back to the final step, okay? Now again, we have a number with a letter. How do we get rid of it? We gotta go ahead and divide by that number that's right next to the letter. So in this case, we go ahead, cancel those out. They don't cancel out, they become 1. So now we have x. And over here we have negative 4 over 3. Now, can I put x first? Yeah, it's just x is equal to negative 4 over 3. And that is it. That's my answer for this one. That is how you solve for x, okay? A lot of people were getting stuck in that type of thing. I have one more example that I want to show you guys, and then I'll do another video for the inequalities and how to solve this. All right, you're going to get another problem like this. 5 parentheses 3 plus 2x is equal to 7. Okay, again, we still have to solve for x, but what's happening here? Well, guess what? We have parentheses and a number outside. So if you remember from the very beginning of what I was talking about, we have what we call distribute. It's one of the skills that you just need to have. So that means I'm going to have to go ahead and multiply the number on the outside with everything inside of the parentheses. So right here, I'm going to multiply the 5 with the 3 and then the 5 with the 2. Okay, so let's do it. So 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 2 is 10. But don't forget, this one has a letter, so I have to apply the letter also here. Now that's going to equal, and now we're going to go ahead and write a 7. We don't have to do anything with that yet. Now we have to balance the equation out, right? I'm solving for this letter, so I have to move everything away from it. What do we usually move first? Anything that's not attached to it. So the 15 is not attached to this, so that one's moving over. So it's going to be negative 15 minus 15. Now that becomes negative 8 is equal to 10x. Now we have the number and the letter together. How do we get rid of that? We do division. We divide by whatever's right next to the letter, which in this case is 10. So we're going to divide by 10 on both sides. Those become 1. So now we just have x is equal to negative 8 over 10, which if you simplify is going to be 4 over 5. Negative. Okay, that is how you're going to go ahead and solve for x. It is not very that difficult, okay? You either going to have to combine like terms or not. After you combine like terms, you're going to have to go maybe distribute method. Once you're all done with that, you're just going to have to balance out the equation, which means that you're going to have to move some things from one side of the equation to the other. And then at the very end, you're going to do two things. Usually multiply or divide. Okay, in some cases we're gonna do the square root and other stuff, but right now we're just worrying about linear equations. So that's all. That's everything you have to do. All right, it was kind of long video. Hopefully you guys watched it. That's how you're gonna solve for x. Now on the next one, I'm actually gonna go over inequalities and how do we solve a couple problems for you. Well, hopefully this helps, and that's it. See you guys next time.